Tonight's a big story. There are growing concerns that the crime wave in New Zealand committed by Australia's 501 deportees could be about to get a whole lot worse. The Australian Senate is considering a new law tonight which would allow the government to send even more back here. 7 years ago, Australia began deporting New Zealand-born criminals. Jacinda Ardern was annoyed then.
Do not deport your people and your problems.
And she's annoyed now.
We are consistent in raising our grievance with Australia around the way this is being managed. And even though it was a short call with PM Morrison this morning, I even raised it again.
That hasn't swayed the Morrison government, though, which now wants to widen the net beyond people who've been jailed for a year. Section 501 would now include someone who's convicted of a crime that carries a 2-year prison term, regardless of whether they're actually jailed. The policy is popular in Aussie, and it seems our government can't stop it or the crime wave it sparked. More guns, more gangs, and thousands more offences. OK, we have two guests to help us break down this story tonight. Police Association President Chris Cahill is joining us live from Wellington, and Community Law CEO Sue Moroney is on the line from Hamilton. Thanks so much to both of you for joining us this evening. Chris, let's start with you. Just how worried are you about another influx of 501s?
Well, it's very worrying. We know that the 501 deportees that are gang members have made a big influence on crime in New Zealand. They've ramped up the level of violence and they've created much more competition amongst gangs, which has led to a lot of that firearms violence we're seeing. And we'd hate to see that this measure could add to more of that problem.
Yeah, so you're noticing the difference on the streets there. So we know a lot of these people are coming here with no family ties, no support network. They've just got out of prison. Is it a recipe for disaster?
Absolutely. The odds are completely stacked against them. They've often spent a lot of time in those dreadful detention centres in Australia. So they arrive here traumatised, broken and very angry about the lack of justice that they've been afforded, when many of them have actually, the misdemeanours that they've been involved in have been relatively minor, and they end up with a life sentence of being completely torn apart from their family, from their community and from any support systems that they have. So it's no wonder things go wrong when they arrive here.
Yeah, they sure do. Well, Chris, we don't have the power, it seems, to impact the decisions being made in Australia. What exactly should we be doing back here to prepare?
Yeah, well, you're right. I've spoken to Peter Dutton, the Australian minister that started this. He will never change, and either will the Australian governments. They think it's a winner. Look, I think Sue's mentioned what really needs to be done. These people have not been treated with respect. And while many of them might be the most likeable characters, some of them have actually done very little at criminal offending. Treat them with respect when they turn up here. And I'll tell you what I think would be a great idea is we've got a real labour shortage in New Zealand, a major problem getting employees. Try and hook them up with jobs. That will give them something that they've got respect. That will give them some real links. And it's a much better opportunity than leaving them abandoned where they're just going to fall into criminal ways.
Yeah, well, so as we've heard, Jacinda Ardern has said this country doesn't want to be dealing with Australia's problems. Does Australia need to up its game?
Well, it's a very interesting time in Australia at the moment because, of course, they're coming up to an election, and that's why this legislation is going through, quite frankly. The Morrison government is in trouble, and they've pulled this out of the hat after this legislation failing last year in the Senate. They've pulled it back up again and revived it to try and help their electoral chances. So, you know, this is New Zealand citizens being used as political fodder. For a situation, a domestic situation that's playing out in Australia. What we do need is we need for our government to continue to raise the issue at every single opportunity with the Australian government. And it seems like there was a missed opportunity just quite recently with the negotiation over New Zealand accepting refugees from Australia. You know, that should have been part of that discussion.
Yeah, it's pretty ironic, isn't it? Chris, back to you. Your guys on the front line here, what are they seeing and what are they worried about seeing?
Well, it's the top end of these offenders. As I say, there's many of them actually have relatively low-level criminal offending, and they're the ones least likely to offend again. It's those gang members that we worry about, and without a doubt, they will use this change in legislation to deport more gang members. They bring a higher level of violence. They bring a lot more international contacts, and they're a real concern with their use of firearms. So that'll be a real concern to the members on the street, and we're going to have to make sure we monitor them as much as we can.
OK, to that end, just quickly from both of you, if our government could do one thing to help, what should it be? Chris, you first.
Well, I think there is some real value in trying to get in front of these people and see if we can get them jobs when they arrive. I think that, as I say, will show them some respect and give them something else to do. And it might be a little bit idealistic, but I tell you, these people would probably appreciate it because they've been treated with no respect from Australia.
We love idealistic cops. Sue, what about you?
Oh, we need to welcome them in the way that we welcome refugees into our country, with a complete wraparound service. Instead, they're met with probation officers, and that's how we treat them when they arrive. They should be welcomed properly and given a complete wraparound service that ensures that they have the best start they possibly can from a dreadful situation that they've been put in.
OK, Sue Moroney and Chris Cahill, thanks so much for your time tonight.